Hello students, in this lesson, we will be discussing about the different types of chemical bonds. Specifically, we will discuss about the covalent, both the polar and non-polar covalent bonds, the ionic bonds, and how to calculate if what type of bond we will be getting out of a compound. But first, let's have a short pretest to test your prior knowledge when it comes to the chemical bonding. So, can you guess what type of bonds these compounds have? For starters, covalent bond by definition is the sharing of electrons between two reacting elements. Meanwhile, ionic bond happens when there is a transfer of electrons from one atom to another atom. So, covalent is sharing while ionic is transferring. In determining the specific type of bond that will be formed out of a chemical reaction, we will still use our Pauling scale of electronegativity as our basis in determining this factor. So, I have here a table of values to show you on. This will be our determining factor if either it will be a covalent polar or nonpolar covalent bond, or it will be an ionic bond out of a chemical reaction. So as you can see here on our table, if the difference between the two elements that are in reaction, the difference in their electronegativity is 0.4 or less, then it will be a nonpolar covalent compound. If it will be from 0.5 to 1.8, the range of their difference in electronegativity, then that will give us a polar covalent compound. Now, if the values are greater than 1.8, so let's say it's 1.9, the difference of the two elements in terms of their electronegativity values, then that reaction will surely give us an ionic compound. To further break down about these different type of bonds, let's start with our nonpolar covalent bond. So why does this specific type of bond happens in a chemical reaction? So let's just say there are two elements that are in reaction and the difference in their electronegativity values is 0.4 or less than 0.4, then that will surely give us a nonpolar covalent bond. So why? It's because when we talk about electronegativity, as discussed in our previous lesson, it's like the force of attraction of electrons. Now, if these two elements have almost equal strength or force in grabbing electrons, so it's like they're trapped in a tug of war wherein nobody is winning. Why? Because they have equal amount of strength to pull on the electrons. So no one is getting more electrons onto his side, and no element is getting more electrons onto the other side. So in a nonpolar covalent bond, the distribution of electrons among these two elements or these two atoms are equally distributed. So there are no polarity, no positive or negative. It's just balance between the two of them. Second, let's have our polar covalent bond. So basically, a polar covalent bond is a type of compound or a bond wherein there's polarity between these atoms that are in reaction. What does that mean? If there is a polarity, there's a positive and there is a negative side of that compound. So they're polar, have two sides basically. And this happens when two elements that are in reaction, they have a difference of electronegativity of values between 0.5 to 1.8. So why does this happen? So basically, polar covalent bond happens wherein these two elements have a huge difference of electronegativity, but they are not that strong enough to grab all the electrons to one side. What I'm trying to say is that one element is stronger than the other, so it tends to pull more or most of the electrons to his side, resulting to a more negative polarity, and the other side who has lesser electrons results to a positive polarity. So that happens because of that scenario. And lastly, let's have our ionic bond. So, ionic bond is basically a transfer of electrons from one atom to the other element or atom. So this happens because of the huge difference of electronegativity values between these two reacting elements. So, its parameter is that if we have an electronegativity difference of 1.9 or greater than that, then it's an ionic bond. So why does this happen? Um, I've mentioned that electronegativity is like the force of an element pulling the electrons towards its side. Now, ionic bond happens because one element tends to be much stronger than the other. So the tendency is that this strong element will pull the electrons, resulting to the transfer of electrons to his side, rather than just simply sharing it. And one example for that is our table salt, sodium chloride or sodium and chlorine. Chlorine have a greater electronegativity value compared to sodium, and the difference between them is more than 1.9. That's why it's an ionic bond. So students, here is the answer to our pre-test earlier showing the difference in their electronegativity and what type of bond these compounds have. Now, thank you for watching and I hope you learned something from this lesson and I'll catch you in the next one.